Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Coaching Corner with me, Jamila, aka the IEP Coach. I am so happy to be here with you all. The weather is consistent now, it's nice and warm. Allergies are not bothering me. For those of you who are new to the Coaching Corner, I am Jamila, aka the IEP Coach. I am the founder and CEO of the IEP Coach LLC. We are an education consulting company and we specialize in providing professional development and coaching centered around special education to special education teams, teachers, and paraprofessionals so they can thrive and not just survive in their roles, okay? And more specifically, we focus on case management, progress monitoring, transition planning, and IEPs, okay? That's just a little bit about what we do for teachers, okay? We're all about supporting our special education teachers. Oh my gosh, June is almost here. Some of you, this is your last week of school. Some of you, you have another maybe 3 more weeks to go. Hang in there. You're almost there. It is almost the end of the year for some of you, and some of you, this is your last week. You made it to the end. Kudos to you. Make sure you celebrate yourself. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about those year-end transitions. And what do teachers and administrators do? Well, we're going to focus on teachers. We're going to focus on the teachers tonight, okay? So it's those year-end transitions, what you need to be doing. So share this out with teachers, share this out with parents, share this out with people who have children, especially if your child is going to another grade, going to another building. Share out this live. And as I'm telling you to share it out, I'm sharing it out as well. Please, and don't forget, make sure you drop in the comments where you are tuning in from, so I can shout you out, okay? So, hope everyone is enjoying this great weather. But it's going to be raining. It's going to rain in a couple days, but it's fine. But let's enjoy the sun, you know? Tune in. Make sure you get outside and get some sun. All right, so let's see. All right. All right, and welcome again. Welcome. We are streaming on all of our platforms. We're streaming on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and on our Facebook pages. So go ahead and share this out. All right. And so again, we're going to be focusing on the transitions for the end of the year. So we're going to be focusing on those transitions when students are transitioning from different schools, different grades, from one case manager to the next case manager, going from high school to college, things you need to be doing to prepare for that, all right? And we will always have time for Q&A, okay? So as the questions are coming to you, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the comments. Someone from the team will make sure I see it, so that way I can answer your question, okay? Because I don't want you to forget your question as we're going through this live, all right? All right. And just a reminder, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, the IEP Insider. Oh, at first it was monthly, but we got such a great response. We've been doing it every week now. So make sure you subscribe, so that way you will be the first to know when our newsletter come out. And our newsletter is not like your average newsletter. We give a lot of strategies so that way you can apply them right away for teachers and administrators too, because you need the support of your administrator to do your job. Okay, so administrators, I'm talking to you too. Make sure you subscribe. I'm going to drop the link in the comments right now. And for those of you who are on Instagram, you can go ahead, click the link in the bio and subscribe to the newsletter. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so some of the end of the year transitions that you may not be aware of course, you know, from grade to grade. When you are a case manager, sometimes your students will get a new case manager. Sometimes your students are moving on to a new grade. Sometimes they're moving on, not a new grade, a new building is what I meant to say. Okay, those are transitions in addition to moving up to a new grade. And then you have the transition of, you have your students who are graduating and going to college, and there are things you need to make sure that you do to close out your caseload and to prepare those students for that transition. And there are things that the administrators need to do to make sure you're able to do that. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. Now, these strategies they can be used for teachers as well as administrators. So parents, if you're on this live, chime in and make sure you just listening with a more attentive ear, so that way you can see like, hey, was this done for my child, or is this being done for my child? And if not, you can make sure that you can inquire to see, hey, this needs to be done for my child. Okay. All right. So the first one is preparing your students for the transition. So when you will not be your students, when you know that your caseload will be getting a new case manager. So let's say this year I had K-2. Okay? So I had K-2, but next year I won't have I won't have the K-2 case, so I may have a different grade. Okay? So that K-2 is going to go to someone else. So I need to prepare the students for the new case manager that they will have. Okay. So some of those things that you can do to prepare your students is you can have that new case manager come meet your caseload. So that way they can put a face with a name. They can kind of get to know them a little bit, ask questions and things like that. You, the case manager, you can then meet with the next case manager, so that way you can just share insights, you can share pertinent information that may not be in your notes or maybe in their files, so that way they have a clear understanding of the caseload that they will be supporting. And you can give that information as, in regarding to what motivates them, what are their strengths, what are some things that what they find difficulty with? What are their areas of need? What are the best ways that they learn? You can have that conversation. You can have lunch with that case manager, and you guys can discuss that and take notes. This is one way to prepare for transition. You're preparing, you as the case manager, you're meeting with that next case manager, and then also giving your caseload an opportunity to meet the new case manager. Again, you're putting names with faces, so this helps with some familiarity. When a new school year comes, they don't feel so anxious and on edge because they don't know who the case manager is. They already met them and they have an idea, who they are and what they look like. Okay. Another thing is you can do a one-pager. Or you can do a one-pager about your students to pass off to the next case manager. It's like a snapshot of goals, accommodations, modifications, like things like that. You can have your students do an about me, and that could be on one side, and then their accommodations, snapshot of their accommodations and things can be on the other side. And you can give that to the next case manager. Let's say you don't have time to meet. Your end of the year schedule is so packed, you don't have time to meet. You can do one-pagers for them. So that way it still gives them a snapshot of the student and their learning information about that student. What's their favorite color? When's their birthday? What are their favorite foods and snacks, movie, just getting to, so that way they can start to build rapport when the next school year comes. Okay. So that's just a little bit for, some tips from case manager to case manager. Now, let's say your caseload is going to a new building next year. For example, your school may go up to 5th grade, and so they're going to 6th grade now, and that's in another building. You can do a transition trip where you and your caseload, and if you have any paras that support your students, you guys can take a trip to that new building. Get a mini tour of the building, meet the case manager, even meet the principal of that new building. I've done that when I taught middle school English. I taught 7th grade English, and the way my district was set up, you had a 7th grade center, 8th grade center, 9th grade center, then the high school, which was 10 through 12. So my 7th graders will be going to the 8th grade center the following year. So what me and the 8th grade case manager did, we communicated with each other. I had my students create my caseload students, I had them create questions to ask students at the in the next grade up, because and also those students also had me. I was their case manager the previous year. So now they're in 8th grade. So now my current 7th graders can speak to my old 7th graders to let them know, like, hey, this is what it's like in the 8th grade. Make sure you do this, this. And then they were able to like do like a tour to like some of the special classes like family consumer science, where gym was, where art was. And then they got to meet their case manager they would have in 8th grade. And then they were able to ask my previous students questions about 8th grade, and they got to meet the principal. So not only are they getting a little familiarity with the school, they're putting names with faces. They met the principal, they met their case manager, and they even got to speak to students who had me previously, So that way it's like peer-to-peer support in addition to the teacher supporting the students, okay? And transition trips are great. They are great. And also, even if, let's say, you're not changing buildings, but hey, you could be changing to a new floor or something like that. And I did that, and I did the same thing with the 6th graders who will be coming to me for 7th grade. I picked 2 of my top students off my case who I knew could follow directions well, and they did a tour for the building, and they were like the peer leaders for the tour, and they were able to answer the 6th graders questions about me and also just about 7th grade, and then I got them, I treated them to something because they were very mature. They did what they needed. They did what I asked them to do, etc. So when you can do peer to peer, that's even better, because sometimes students think you're lying when you're telling them, like, listen, high school is like this or 8th grade is like this. They think you're joking, but when they hear it from someone their age, is different. Okay, so you can definitely do those transition trips, or you might call it a shadow day, where they can go to the other building and shadow one of the students in that grade, or shadow the student, like follow the student maybe for a class, or you can have them do a peer tour. Okay, those are always great, always great. And then also, another tip is make sure your documentation is finalized. So any transition plans that you have, make sure they're finalized. Make sure all of your students, if you teach at the middle school level and up, so secondary and up, make sure if your student is turning 14, make sure, or they're turning 14 over the course of that IEP that you did, make sure that transition planning is in that IEP and you have started the transition planning, or you are doing the transition activities, which could be researching colleges and universities that have their major, or researching colleges and universities in your area, or something like that. It could be filling out a job application. It really depends on what their goals are, because remember, the transition sections are post-secondary education, employment, and independent living. Okay, so as long as you're working on skills within those 3 tiers, you will be fine. But make sure that if that student is not already 14, if they're going to be turning 14 over the course of the IEP, make sure the transition planning has started in their IEP. Make sure it is in their IEP. Okay. Now, administrators, this is how you can help your teams. You can communicate with families to let them know about the end of the year things that are going on. If you're doing any shadow days, any transition trips, you can share this information with the families so that way they are aware, and you can make sure that the teachers have the time to take the students to do those trips and to do those shadow days, because you can change the schedule, or you can find them coverage if they need to go on the particular trip. You can find them coverage, or you can manage their schedule so that way they're available to do that. Okay, so that will really help your team out if you give them the time to do these end of the year transition things. Okay, and then also, you can manipulate your schedule if you talk with the principal in the next building. Hey, one of my teachers is going to come over to speak with XYZ. You know, you and your admin colleagues, you guys can manipulate your schedule so that way you can make sure that those case managers can meet. And then also managing your schedule so that way you can meet some of the new students that are coming to your school, because this will help ease any anxiety they may have coming to your school. The fact that they was able to meet you with nobody else around and ask questions, like, that is a lot. Giving them the time to do that, it will help them a lot. Yes, time and consideration of tasks is huge. Yes, that is a great support. You are absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now, we're going to move on to college. If your student has an IEP and they are moving on to college and they're graduating this year, parents and teachers, listen to me. I'm going to tell you this now, okay? Yes, you want to make sure you have the summary of performance section of the IEP completed. However, if that student requires accommodations at their college or university, they're not going to look at the IEP. They're going to look at the reevaluation report. So make sure that reevaluation report is up to date. Okay? Make sure it is up to date. Make sure it clearly states what the disability is and how it impacts their education and life. Okay? Because that's what the colleges and universities will use to determine what accommodations the student qualifies for. Okay? Now, parents, please listen up. Make sure your child's reevaluation report is up to date. It has to be at least 3 years old. I'm telling you this because if it's not up to date and they're still in school, you have time to ask for a reevaluation, because once you leave the school, you're going to have to pay out of pocket for that. So, if something is outdated, get it up to date while they are in school, because the school will do it. You won't have to come out of pocket for it. And I'm telling you this because coming out of pocket, it can be thousands of dollars. It can be $2,000, $3,000. It could be $1,500. Okay? I'm trying to save you money. Okay? So make sure while they're still in school, make sure they have an updated reevaluation. And you don't have to wait until they start college to request the accommodations. Once your child decides what school they're going to go to, you can contact, it depends what different colleges call it something different. It could be the Center for Academic Achievement, or it could be student support services or something like that. Contact them, send an email, send a request. Make sure your child does it, because your child has to request it. I want to request accommodations. You can ask them, what documentation do I need? Or you can just put your request in and attach that reevaluation report and just say, I'm requesting accommodations for school. Because you can get accommodations for a learning disability. You can get it for psychological disability, health impairment, chronic health impairment, physical impairment. If you have a disability, you can get accommodations in your college and university. Okay? All right. I saw something come up. Ooh, is that what happens sometimes when I've heard about post-secondary trying not to fulfill accommodations? The reevaluation report isn't updated. Yes, they can't do anything with the outdated reevaluation report. Because I've had some, and I'm telling you, I've had some students who I've seen that where they have the reevaluation, but I'm like, Mom, this is outdated. They can't do nothing with an outdated reevaluation. You have to get an updated one. Yes, so that's where. Because they can't do anything with outdated paperwork. That's a big thing. Yes, it is a big thing to know. And I tell parents, like, hey, get on it now. If something needs to be updated, have them updated while they're in school, because you're not going to come out of your pocket for that. Once they graduate, it's going to come out your pocket, or your insurance may pay for it. Okay? All right, let me make sure. Let me see if we got any questions. Let's see if we got anything over here. All right. So yes. So those are like some of the end of the year transitions that you need to be mindful of. I'm just going to do a quick recap. So if the student is changing case managers, you can do a meeting case manager, and you can have your students meet that new case manager. Okay, you can even do it. If you don't have time to meet with that case manager, you can make one pagers, have your students do an about me page, and then you can have a snapshot of their accommodations and just some information that the case manager need to know. Put that in a page protector, and you can give them to the new case manager. This gives them a snapshot of who they are, the students that they will be getting. Now, if your students are going to a new building, definitely do a shadow day. Take a trip over there. So that way your students can meet the new principal at that school. They can meet the case manager. They can ask the students in that new grade questions. It's more peer-to-peer. And I feel like that'll sink in more when they're actually hearing from people their age. Like, listen, you got to make sure you do X, Y, Z. Okay. Or even if it could be a different floor, you can do the same thing. Okay. And involve your caseload. They will love to help you and do that, especially they get to tell somebody what they need to do at their school or with this case manager. How can they be successful? Don't underestimate that peer-to-peer. Okay? Principals, administrators, give your teachers the time to do this, the time to meet, to talk about the different caseloads they'll have, to share the information. Give them the time to take students to meet the case manager and to meet you, because this can really decrease some of the anxiety some students have going to a new building or getting a new case manager, having a new principal. This can really help decrease some of that anxiety. Okay? And if you if you are teaching secondary, make sure if your student is not already 14, if they're going to be turning 14 over the course of that IEP, you better have that transition plan in that IEP. Okay? And have goals. Remember, the areas are post-secondary education, employment, and independent living. I've had so many parents tell me, like, oh my God, my child ain't got that. I didn't know that. And I'm like, what you mean? What do you mean? I'm like, that should have been in there. And they're 16. I'm like, they should have had the transition plan. And it doesn't matter if they're on this career track or whatever. It's supposed to be documented in their IEP what their transition plan is and what what goals they're working on. And last but not least, if your child is graduating with an IEP and they're going to college and they require accommodations, parents, make sure your child has an updated reevaluation. That's what they need to request accommodations at their college or university. They need an updated reevaluation. It has to be at least 3 years old. So let's say I'm sending in a request for accommodations today. Today is May 20th. Okay, May 20th, 2025. So if my reevaluation is from 2023, and let's say it's June 2023, and I'm sending a request now, if I do it today, it's still good because it's not June yet. It's still good. I'm just at the cusp. But to be safe, I would get a new reevaluation. Okay, it has to be at least 3 years old within the date that you are requesting accommodations. Colleges and universities can't do anything with outdated paperwork, and do it while they're in school, so that way the school can do the reevaluation for it, can get the reevaluation done for you. Because once that kid graduates, it's gonna come out of your pockets, and it costs thousands of dollars. These evaluations. And some schools, you can get evaluated. Some schools have like testing centers, and you can get evaluated on campus. However, they tend to have a long wait list. Wow, a lot of people fuss about that, and the college university is catching strays, but the parent or educator may be underinformed. Yeah, it's possible that, but the thing is, the case manager is supposed to know that. Especially if you're doing high school, you're supposed to know. Especially, this is why with transition, you're going to know, hey, if I'm teaching high school, in my case, I have a bunch of high schoolers, I'm going to know who wants to go to college, who's going to college, who's going to just be working after college or anything. You're going to know that. So you need to know, not only do you complete the sum of your performance, that reevaluation needs to be updated. I would say all that maybe they don't know, but if you are a high school special education teacher, you're supposed to know that, and you're supposed to tell the parent to make sure they get that updated. 3 years or less. Within 3 years, yes. It has to be within 3 years of that date that you're making the request. Okay. Does anybody have questions? Don't be afraid to ask your questions. Come on. I know you got some. I'm going to give you a moment to get your questions together because I know I shared a lot. All right. Now, if your team at your school needs support with closing out the year and needs help with your end of the year transitions, please book a call with us at the IEP Coach. We'd be more than happy to come and support your school. Administrators, if you need support with supporting your teams at your school, here is the link to book a call with us. If you are on our Instagram page, click the link in our bio and you can book a discovery call with us. Okay? Questions. Who has questions? I'm going to give you a moment so that way you can type your question out, because I know it takes a minute for you to type your questions. And I'm also going to switch over and check our Instagram to see if anybody put questions over there. I'll make sure I share our links. All right. Any questions? Put it in the comments. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Okay. All right. Let me check. I don't see any on Instagram. If the question comes to you later, feel free to send us a DM. We are very responsive. Or you can email us. We are very responsive. If the question comes to you later, we'll be more than happy to answer your question. All right. Just a reminder, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, the IEP Insider. We're going to have the next edition is coming out tomorrow. We're going to be talking about this exact thing. Okay. So make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. I'm going to drop the link again. I'm dropping the link again. So that way you'll get a notification when we drop the new edition. And again, if the question comes to you later, send us a DM, okay? Or email us. We are very responsive, all right? All right. Remember, be kind to yourself. Remember your capacity. You're one person. You're only able to do what you are capable of doing. Please don't burn yourself out. Shout out to all my teachers. You are almost at the end. Some of you, the light is brighter than others because this may be your last week or next week is your last week. You are at the very end. You're almost there. Hold on, hold on, hold on. All right. Be kind and be kind to yourselves and be safe. And I'll see you all next week. Have a good night.